Yeah, there's been a lot of tort reform, and that's another show as well. But one of the things that the Texas legislature has kept intact is that protection of the consumer and not being harassed. And that goes for insurance too. We've still got some bad faith insurance laws and stuff on the codes that have some teeth where, Texas citizens do have rights. But if you don't know those rights, Dean, how are you going to exercise them?
And if you don't know your rights, you've got to know a lawyer. You got to have someone that will explain them to you. And that's why the bar association in these towns are trying their best. And Joe can tell you how to reach those people and how to make contact with the bar associations across the state of Texas. The Texas Bar knows we're not doing a very good job on this. That's why they're trying more and more to come up with funding from the local bars and from some very wealthy plaintiff lawyers and from the defense bar to help fund these services. They're called pro bono services. In Houston, for example, you have Lone Star Legal Aid, but then the problem is if you make anything, you probably make too much to qualify for Lone Star Legal Aid.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that everybody out there that's working so hard, you feel like there's no end to it. But there is. Just remember, there's not much they can do to you if you owe them money. Now that doesn't count also on your mortgage. If you have a house and you're paying a mortgage, if you don't pay the mortgage, they will foreclose on that mortgage and take your house back. Unless you get a lawyer, you can come up with some way to forestall or prohibit the filing of that action, or at least keep a deficiency judgment from going against the homeowner. But again, the law is set up to help you. You have periods of redemption, but even more than that, this period of time, you talk to bank and mortgage companies, they don't want your house.
That's right.
They've got too much of the property coming back. They're motivated, the banking companies, the mortgage companies are motivated to work something out with you. But if you just sit there and shake and are afraid and let bad things happen to you, then they will happen to you. On the other hand, if call a lawyer, call the local bar association, find out what your rights are. That's what we're talking about right now. We're just dealing with the 3-foot end of the pool about what your legal rights are. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot even better than this. We're just touching the surface.
That's exactly right. And I've participated in LHOT, Legal Hotline for Older Texans. Also the LRIS, and many lawyers that I know participate in that legal referral service too. And it's out there. Also, you can see that in your yellow pages. Or if you've got a grandson or somebody who can get on the internet, even at the library, you can go on mytexasbar.com. They got all kinds of information out there.
That's the State Bar of Texas?
That's the State Bar of Texas, mytexasbar.com. And they have information there not only for lawyers, but also for the general community. They have 10-minute mentors on certain subjects.
Right.
I've filled a couple on healthcare fraud and one on medical malpractice. Although it's taken a hit on that here, and what side of the fence you're on, but there have been some tort reforms in that area. But that's why you have to know your rights even more, because I sure get a lot of calls on medical malpractice, and I have to tell many of those people, unfortunately, the courthouse doors are getting closed slightly every year. They're taking away more on that, but there are reasons for that. Sometimes the law balances it out, and that's another show too. Like Dean Treece said, we're in the 3-foot level or the kiddie pool right now. But it shows like Dean Treece's that play in Houston and Dallas, and mine down there in the Valley and in South Texas that are trying to educate people, trying to at least, if you can't afford an attorney, and this doesn't replace legal advice. This show is not legal advice. You've got to get an attorney of your choice or go to your local Texas bar to do it. We're not trying to advocate out here and give legal advice just hodgepodge, but we're trying to let you know there's an awareness that you need to have about your rights.
We're trying to light that path. The poet said that the path to knowledge is very dark, but it can be lit with certain candles. And that's what we're talking about now. We're trying to show you there's information out there. And boy, that was a great idea. It's called mytexasbar.com. Isn't that right?
That's right.
mytexasbar, all one word, .com. And that's the State Bar of Texas, the group that admits they're way behind in providing legal services to the poor. But the definition of what's poor may surprise you, because you have to really, really be poor. You probably don't have access to a computer to qualify for Lone Star Legal Aid.
That's what I was saying, hit that library. I tell them,
right.
There's a library, the librarian will show you how to turn on the computer. Let's go.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and we have to find creative ways. A lot of the time people come to me without money and they say, I've got to be helped. Sometimes I do have to turn them away because lawyers do have to run a business too. And if I just did free everywhere, I think my wife would kill me and then I'd be behind on child support.
There you go.
Right,
but you know, the other idea that we have found to have been productive in the Houston area, if you don't have access to a lawyer and you don't want to call lawyer referral, you don't want to call because you don't know any lawyers, we have found that if you talk to your priest, your minister, your religious leader, the person that you're comfortable with, and share with them like you would any other spiritual problem you might have, saying that I just don't know what I'm going to do with this legal problem. That's been another source. I have seen many religious leaders are able to say, look, we have a member of this parish or we have a member of this congregation, and they can help you as part of their ministry at that church. And I know that if you're a very non-religious person, it may not mean anything to you, but a lot of these religious leaders take their entire congregation or their parish very seriously. And they will find members who have that same faith who share the legal profession and legal services for that person.
That is an excellent idea, and I think I'm going to advocate for that because the more I interview people, especially in the legal profession, I get ideas and creative ways. And let me tell you, churches really not only do that, but they rock politics. They rock the court system. I'm sorry, but it's true. You've got religious and leaders out there, ministers and priests, and if they don't like something, a lot of the time they advocate on behalf of one of their parishioners. And that's an excellent idea. Similarly to someone who needs a surgery of some kind or doesn't have health insurance, we pass the hat around. Sometimes maybe we can do that in our churches. Try to help people for simple matters. We're not talking shelling out for a death penalty case or something, but for these consumer matters. And many times, a lot of these religious leaders know a lot of members of the bar. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of us are Christian and part of the Christian Trial Lawyers Association, like Mark Lanier founded.
And myself, I'm one of the co-founders
of that. That's right. You all founded that. I'm going to be interviewing him down the road here. Mark Lanier is an excellent advocate. Mm-hmm. You know him very well. You guys founded the Christian Trial Lawyers Association.
You know what Mark Lanier also did? He has he brags about this. Back in 1984, at Texas Tech, he and Jim Bob Dennis, the Texas Tech moot court team, beat one of the best teams I ever had and kept us from winning the national championship. So Mark Lanier is also a great advocate and a very good friend. And with the Christian Trial Lawyers, they're trying to come up with new ways to get out there and start finding out what are the needs that the people have. And some of these type of services to you look very big and very difficult, like questions about family law.
That's right.
You know, I can't tell you how many family law questions we get. Religious leaders can definitely help. And instead of even getting a judge, quite often if both members of the family are a member of the same parish or same congregation, you could have a religious leader mediate a lot of those disputes. That is, who's going to get custody, how to divide the property up. Folks, if you go to trial in a divorce case, and you go to trial on the question of custody, I don't care which side you're on, you remember this, you're letting people who don't know one thing about you decide where your children are going to be. If ever there was a situation where you need to counsel yourself to be reasonable and counsel your ex, or soon-to-be ex to be reasonable, it's in this area. I've very seldom seen that where the lawyers and the clients, they're in a far better position to work out reasonable solution in divorce cases. But what do you have to have? You got to have a lawyer. And if you don't have a lawyer and you're going to court, you are really in trouble. Because no matter how bad the other side's lawyer are, they're going to be better than you if you're representing yourself. It's brutal. And even the language, it's like going to a foreign country and trying to find bus transportation somewhere. You just don't know what to say. And even judges bend over backwards to try to help out the person who doesn't have a lawyer, but it doesn't make that much difference. Sooner or later, you know, even if your side's right, very seldom will you be able to preserve and protect those rights. There is a reason people go to law school for 3 years, and part of that is to learn procedure and evidence, which you have to have if you're going to try something.